You ready, Dave?
Mine says live.
Are we ready, Dave?
Yeah, we're ready. Go ahead.
Okay, we're going to call to order the Mangum City Hospital Authority special session for August 27, 2020. If you would, Billy, please call the roll.
Zachary.
Here.
High School.
Here.
Lively.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum. Item 3, consent agenda. Consider a motion to approve items A through G as presented.
I would like to remove G.
Okay. So
if Elka's fine, approve A through F.
So we have a motion to, okay. We have a motion. Is that a second, Ilka?
Yes, sir.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve items A through F from the consent agenda. Call for the vote, please.
Zachary.
Yes.
High School.
Yes.
Lively.
Yes.
Okay, discussion regarding item G is from the CEO report.
Marie, if you would please kind of go over your report for us.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. All right, the report starts with our, it's the July 2020 CEO report for Mangum. It starts with the COVID-19 activity and overview. We continue to swab any admits due to increased number of positive cases in Mangum. For July, the prevalence, we did anticipate the surge. We ended that month with a 10% prevalence. The median age was 42.8. And the Greer County July COVID-19 statistics were 80 positive cases and 7 deaths. I don't know, I'll give a kind of a brief overview because I don't, for the sake of time, I don't want to go through and run through the entire report. Some of the highlights were, we had adequate PPE supplies and swab supplies during COVID. Also, we update the COVID-19 binder at the nurses station, the city annex, and the provider room to ensure communication with all parties involved, every single staff member, provider, etc. I participated in all the cohesive COVID-19 task force teleconferences. These are once a week. They are on Thursdays at 11:30. We also implemented the OSU telehealth on July 1st as a backup plan should we have any providers or Dr. Schifatelli not able to perform hospital rounding. Our average daily census for July was 10 swing bed, and that's been a really good average considering, how COVID has impacted our hospital number of visits, whether it's swing bed, acute, ED, etc. I make hospital rounds every morning for an inspection. I had no staff concerns to report. Everybody is working well. I do continue to have all staff meetings twice a month. We were having them weekly and I reduced it to twice a month and they have been going well. I conduct a morning huddle in the morning with all the directors. I try to keep everyone motivated, educated, and informed during this time. I had a pizza party for the staff in July because we had no falls in June and July. So they love to have this recognition. Annual reviews were moved to Paycom platform. This is a wonderful platform Cohesive has. We are now using the electronic platform to ensure deadlines are met for these annual and 90-day performance reviews. So this was an excellent project and excellent work done by Afton and Casey. Our dietary staff in Greer County, they were not required to have a food handling permit, but all the dietary staff members took it upon themselves to study for the exam and they passed. We have all but one, and I haven't had an update whether or not she has taken the exam, but I think that was a great initiative on their part. Mark Chapman was awarded Employee of the Month for June, and we announced that during our July 15th board meeting. Cheryl Lively, she offered to make us t-shirts for Employee of the Month, and we're so thankful for these t-shirts. The staff loves them, and we really appreciate her doing this. Our patient kitchen was remodeled last month. They did an excellent job. We have a new refrigerator for that patient kitchen. And as you all know, we have discussed before prior to this meeting about the water leaks on the roof, and those are being addressed. The contracts that were approved at the July 30th special board meeting were the UHC VACCN contract, the Integris contract, See the Trainer, etc. I conduct extensive RCM, which is revenue cycle management trainings, with a select group of staff members. Every single week, we have a RCM meeting and a registration meeting. I've completed several PowerPoint training and resource guides for the staff. And I am proud to announce that we have a new cohesive director of revenue cycle management. She began on July 14th, and we were excited to have her at our facility first. Her name is Lori Sutton, and she is a tremendous asset to our organization.
Okay. Marie, I'm sorry. The only reason I had you do that is because when mine printed, it was all smeared and I could not see the paper. So that I'm good with the rest of it. Now, if there's something else you want to tell us really good about, then go for it. But that was why I had to remove that, because I just couldn't read it. So.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Well, no, it's not your fault. It's the copy machine. So, yes, thank you. That's exactly, I just needed you to touch base so I didn't miss anything on that first page.
Okay.
Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
You're welcome.
So do we have a motion to approve CEO report item G and number 3?
I make a motion that we approve the CEO report.
I will second that motion.
Okay, call for vote, please.
Lively,
Yes.
Zachary,
Yes.
High School.
Yes.
Item 5, presentation of the tentative and preliminary draft of the financial statements from REDW CPAs on the Mangum Regional Medical Center for the 6-month period ending in December 31, 2017.
Hello, this is Cassie. We've got Chris Tyhurst and Claire Hillary from RADW, and I believe they're going to put the audit report up on the screen so that you can see it. They weren't able to provide drafts without the signed management rep letter, so they're going to go ahead and present that. And if you're comfortable with the presentation and the results, then we would ask for you to sign the management rep letter. So I'll turn it over to them.
Great, thank you very much, Cassie. Board members, good evening, good afternoon. Appreciate the opportunity to be here. My name is Chris Tyhurst. I'm a principal with REDW. Also joining me is Claire Hillary, Senior Manager with REDW. In a minute, Claire's going to pull up kind of our slideshow presentation. Before she does that, though, I do want to, if I can, and I don't know if the host of the meeting could give me permission to share my screen, and I'll pull up the financial statements.
I do not know how to do that. Hang on.
And you'll probably need to give permission to Claire as well, because she's got the slide deck. Well, while he's working on that, I wanted to give you a little bit of background. This obviously is very old information. Then this really essentially is sort of like a first-time audit. Starting from zero at 7/1 of 2017. For Mangum Regional Medical Center, and it's for the 6-month period ended December 31st of 2017. So it's not a full year. needless to say, this is probably one of the longest audit processes that we've been through. We started this quite a while ago. It was stopped and started several times, as the medical center changed management companies and, got some of its accounting records in order. And also, some time was needed, to deal with some of the legal issues concerning, line of credit and some other things that, we'll talk about as we go through as well. But we're to the point where we're ready to issue the report and happy to share it with you tonight.
Chris, can you share it now?
I believe I can, yep. Okay, so hopefully everybody can see, the financial statements. We typically present some graphs and charts with key financial statement items and ratios, in our PowerPoint slide deck, but we didn't do that this time just because information is so old and there's really only, there's no comparative information. We just have this 1 6-month period, but I did want to at least show you a couple of the major items in the financials that we're going to be talking about throughout the presentation so that you're aware of sort of what they look like in here as we go through it. Certainly one of the big items we look at is, patient accounts receivable. That's a big part of any audit of any hospital, medical center, healthcare organization. Accounts payable was a big number at December 31st, 2017, because of the number of outstanding invoices that existed. You've got this big number here, estimated amounts due to third-party payers, and that's the result of Medicare cost reports that were actually prior to July 1 of 2017, but tied to the medical center's Medicare number. So the medical center was on the hook for those amounts, and that liability is about $3.3 million. As you go down through the income statement, you can see for the 6-month period, it was an operating loss of about $2.6 million roughly, and a couple of pretty significant non-operating items, which we'll talk a little bit more about. This is the estimated third-party payer expense. So that was sort of the creation of the liability for the old cost reports, that predated 7/1 of 2017. And then we've got this item that's called extinguishment of contested line of credit. And then you'll see that as we go through some of this information as well, which is, I'm sure you're all aware of the line of credit that was in the name of your former management company that the proceeds were received by the medical center, spent in fiscal year 17, but ultimately this was not a liability of the medical center. So it shows up as this non-operating revenue item. And then just real quick before we jump into the slide deck, I just wanted to show you a number of, significant footnote items as you go through here. There's a big footnote describing medical center operations, which gives a little bit of history of, your relationship with the former management company and, some of the legal issues involved with that, as well as, some more information about the Medicare cost reports and that liability that existed. And then any, set of financial statements also needs to contain some disclosures as it relates to outstanding contingencies. And these are things like, the existing lawsuit on the contested line of credit, as well as, some other motions and claims that are filed, related to some of these other matters in the past as well. So these are just disclosures of that legal information for the readers of the financials. And then, of course, on top of everything else, you throw in COVID-19 as a subsequent event. And this speaks a little bit to some of the CARES Act funds that the medical center received in 2020. Again, all of this is well after the year end of the report, but these are significant subsequent events that gets disclosed. So I just did that, I just wanted to show you some context of what it looks like in the financials. And so when we talk about these things in the slide presentation, you'll understand kind of what those look like. So Claire, maybe if you could pull up the slide deck. Okay, let me just rearrange my notes a moment. Okay, so if we go on to the next slide, slide 1. And Claire, I don't know if you could advance to the next slide. Sorry, okay, there we go. Thank you. So just a little bit of background and history, about our firm. So REDW was founded in 1953. We have about 200 people in our firm between our two offices in Albuquerque and Phoenix. And we serve healthcare organizations throughout the U.S. Our healthcare practice works with all types of hospitals, community health centers, tribal healthcare organizations, nursing homes, et cetera, in several different states. On to slide 2. And so some of these first few slides are just the what are considered to be required communications to the governing board of the organization, required by our professional standards. And throughout the presentation, we're going to speak to the medical center's accounting practices and policies, judgments and estimates that are used in these financial statements, disclosures and findings throughout. Next slide. So our audit is complete for the 6-month period, again, ended December 31st, 2017. There's a couple of different accounting and auditing standards that we need to follow as part of this process, one being U.S. generally accepted auditing standards and the other is government auditing standards. And a lot of times I'll summarize it this way. There's two main objectives to any annual financial statement audit such as this. Number one is to verify the accuracy of the numbers. So can you as a governing board rely upon the information that you see in these financials, the numbers that you see in these statements, from which to make decisions, to rely upon those numbers that they are materially correct? And the second main objective is to evaluate internal controls. That's where you see government auditing standards, and big focus of that is on evaluating internal controls. And so we don't issue an opinion on internal controls, but we do look very closely at all of the processes and procedures and sign-offs and approvals that are in place to protect the medical center's assets and to make sure you're processing your financial transactions appropriately. And if we have any control findings, we report those to you. The audit objective is to provide reasonable but not absolute assurance that the financial statements are free from material misstatement. This is not 100% assurance. We don't audit every single dollar and every single transaction that goes through the accounting records, but we do look at the significant and material items to make sure that these financial statements are materially correct. Next slide. So our scope of work was substantially the same as we discussed in our planning communications early on in the process. And we have issued what's called an unmodified opinion on the financial statements. An unmodified opinion is the highest level of assurance we can give as independent CPAs that the amounts in the financial statements are materially correct. Now, it doesn't mean that there weren't some adjustments necessary to get there, and we'll talk about what some of those were. And it certainly doesn't mean also that there weren't internal control findings as a part of the audit, and we'll talk about some of those findings also. But it means at the end of the day, after all the adjustments made, we are issuing our opinion that these financial statements are materially correct. We do have an extra paragraph in that opinion called an emphasis of a matter. It doesn't affect the opinion, but it does bring to the attention of the reader that there is this lawsuit ongoing regarding the line of credit and the former management company. And as the date of the report, it's uncertain what the outcome will be of that, but it is disclosed in the notes to the financial statements. So that is an emphasis of the matter in the audit report. Slide 5. So again, continuing with some of our required communications, all records and information we requested were freely available for our inspection, and cooperation was excellent for management and all levels within the organization. And obviously this was a long process, and we worked with several different people throughout the last couple of years to get this thing done. But really appreciate the team that you have in place there at the hospital, at Cohesive. I know this is a challenge to get through, and certainly in dealing with everything else that they're dealing with COVID-19 and everything going on. We know this is not a high priority, but we appreciate the assistance and all the guidance from them to get us to this point. So cooperation was very good. Slide 6. Accounting policies and practices. So significant accounting policies and practices are included in Note 1. They are appropriate, comply with generally accepted accounting principles and industry standards, and were consistently applied. And there's a summary also of recently issued accounting pronouncements that are going to have an impact in the future, also in note 1. Next slide. Accounting estimates. So in addition to the typical daily, cash in, cash out type transactions, in any set of financial statements, there's certain items that require some estimation, some judgment on the part of management. And included in those and included in any hospital financial statement are a couple of things. One is the allowance for uncollectible patient receivables. That's always a big estimate. Now, we've got the benefit of time with this one, since this is 12/31/17. So we know at this point how much cash came in, after year end, and it can be pretty certain that that's all the cash that's going to come in on the receivables that existed at that point. So we looked at subsequent receipts to verify the amounts reported as patient receivables in 12/31/17. And then estimated amounts due to third-party payers, again, is an estimate based on the analysis of open cost reports and correspondence with the intermediary and other such things. And so that's something that's also a management estimate that we take a pretty close look at, as well as depreciation expense on capital assets. And management made no significant changes to any of the process or assumptions that we're aware of during the accounting period. Claire's going to take you through some of the adjustments. If you go on here, there's a couple of the next slides. There's a combination of both client-provided adjustments, meaning management provided these adjustments to us based on their information to adjust the financial statements, and then others that we identified throughout the course of the audit that we provided and management corrected the amounts. So I'll let Claire walk you through some of those.
Sure, thank you. And I apologize about the switching of the Zoom. All my screens got mixed up here. So going into some of the audit adjustments, as Chris said, there were definitely some adjustments that were needed to get the balances materially stated. The first one being just related to the cost report liabilities that existed prior to the 6 months ended of 2017, in addition to a portion or a component of the 2017 cost report for when the medical center, came into being as it is for that 6 months ended period. So you'll see here, journal entries were provided where we're increasing the liability by about 3.8 million. And that's below the line on the income statement. It's not in the operating section, which Chris showed you when we first got on the call. The other journal entry was with regard to a PTO accrual. We had identified that accrued PTO balances were not being accrued for, even though employees per the policy were allowed to accrue up to, I think, 250 hours. And so we made an adjustment for that, which increases the expense and the associated liability for that. The third adjustment was the receivable, also related to the third-party payer, but this was for the actual period in which the medical center operated. So unlike the 3.8 million adjustment where we created the liability, this adjustment offset that liability by 535,000 to reduce it, because in that 6 months period, it was determined there was a receivable of 535,000. And then an adjusting entry to adjust the AR allowances based on our cash receipts look back, essentially, that because this was an audit in 2017, we had a lot of good data after that fiscal year end to determine how much cash was actually collected on those AR balances. So, the AR that you're seeing on the financial statements truly do represent actual cash that came in the door after 12/31/17. See. Another entry that was provided to us, this was to correct some of the other accrual balances that when we were testing, we'd identified that there were some amounts that were just not on there with regard to a lot of employee benefit. Specifically, if you can see here, there's a medical. And so this increased ultimately the liabilities by 85,000. The next journal entry 14 here, this is related to that line of credit that was contested. And later on in the presentation, we'll go through some of the findings. So that ultimately resulted in a kind of a contribution of a below the line item of about 3 million. And then another adjustment was with regard to the accounts payable. So we'd identified that there were some related party payments in the accounts payable register that likely were not legitimate payables. And so those were ultimately removed in the amount of under 184,000. So also as part of our audit, we look at other things in terms of adjustments, and we're always evaluating an adjustment in terms of materiality. There were 4 adjustments that we'd identified that we ultimately chose to not post because the net effect of them, one was just not material. They either offset each other. And so, the net effect would not be material to the user of the financial statements. So I'll just go through these quickly. So one was a deposit in transit on a bank reconciliation that was just coded wrong. It was reduced instead of adding. There was some unadjusted AP balances in the AP aging report that it didn't agree, so we adjusted that. There was a reversal of a rental related expense that should have been expensed in 2018. So it was a timing issue. And then lastly, a correction to the property tax due. So like I said, ultimately, when you consider all of these things in their aggregate, they offset each other. And so we chose not to post them. Oh, I apologize. There was 5 entries. Their last one here was an adjusting expense amount related to one of the contracts that we had examined. So, we also had the onset of this audit, which I know it took place in 2018. We had interviewed a board member and also discussions with management and just going over some of the other aspects of the policies and practices that were in place during 2017. Looking at the significant estimates that Chris discussed, the significant or unusual transactions, which I think, given some of the findings, which we'll go through shortly, there was definitely some questions around that. And then, of course, the presentation of how to present these most accurately to best represent the true business that occurred, and then new accounting pronouncements. So Chris mentioned we have to evaluate a system's internal control, and we do it in a categorization of 3 categories. There's the deficiency internal control, which is the least severe, a significant deficiency, which is more severe and something that we felt like, those charged with governance would need to know about. And then lastly, the most severe is what we call a material weakness. And this is where there is a reasonable possibility that there is a material misstatement in the financial statements that could go undetected and not be corrected on a timely basis. And so ultimately, we did have several material weaknesses in the 2017 audit. The first being with regard to the debt and the other agreements that were executed. We identified that there was, lots of questions around whose debt the line of credit and some of the other things ultimately were because of the names that were used, that it wasn't in the medical center's names. And similarly, there was a lot of related party relationship type contracts that were executed, and it was unclear to us what arrangements really existed and what liabilities or legal obligations were affiliated with those. So we felt that was severe enough to mark as a material weakness, especially due to the material adjustment that we had to make with regard to that line of credit. Similarly, with the accounts receivable, we had posted that adjustment to reflect the true cash receipts of the accounts receivable. And so we had to increase the allowances to, accurately reflect what the net accounts receivable was. And so the model that was used at the time was clearly not reflective of what was actually received. And so this was once again a material weakness. 2017-03 internal controls. During our testing, we identified lots of internal control issues related to segregation of duty problems. There was not that many people working at that time. And so we identified lots of control deficiencies that maybe individually wouldn't necessarily rise to a level of material weakness, but because we saw them throughout the various processes. So we noted here cash, inventory, payroll, accounts payable, and journal entries, that we kind of rolled those all together and we're classifying this as a material weakness because we just saw there was kind of a lack of those controls and segregations that we'd like to see to make sure that there are, mitigating controls in any process. And then lastly, I kind of spoke to this, that we'd identified PTO balances were just not being accrued for. So there was no liability on the books when we received the trial balance for all the employees, yet they were allowed to accrue up to 250 hours, which would be obligated to be paid out upon termination. And so, ultimately we did post that adjustment to record that liability and the associated expense. And it was significant enough to be classified as a material weakness. So I will turn it over to Chris to take you through the other required communications.
Great, thank you. So these last few slides, again, are just kind of the required communications that our auditing standards say we have to require to communicate with you, the board members. There were no significant changes to our planned audit strategy that were initially identified. Now, throughout the process, obviously, as we identified certain other things like the line of credit, the cost report liability, stuff like that, we did have to adapt and adjust some audit procedures there. No matters relevant to the financial reporting that we were made aware of as a result of our inquiries of those charged with governance. No specialized skills or knowledge were needed outside of our core engagement team to perform the audit or evaluate the results. Nothing changed that would change our basis for our determination that we could serve as principal auditor. We are not aware of any consultations about accounting or auditing matters between management and other CPA firms. And then our evaluation of the identification, accounting, and disclosure of related party transactions and relationships. Claire talked about that a little bit, and certainly some of the footnotes that I showed you at the beginning speak to some of those related party relationships and your former management company. No disagreements with management about any matters, rather are not satisfactorily resolved. Certainly we work very closely with management and your management company, to do this audit, but at the end of the day, we are independent auditors and our responsibility is to you, the board of directors. And if we had any disagreements about any significant accounting or auditing matters, we would certainly bring that to your attention, but that was not the case. And, no significant difficulties. Again, we appreciate everybody working really hard on this under difficult circumstances. Obviously, this audit spanned a very, very long time, and the changes in management company turnover of staff and other types of things certainly hindered the ability to be efficient and get this thing done. But everybody in place there now has been very, very helpful in getting this thing wrapped up. Then our last slide just speaks to the fact that there were no other significant matters not previously communicated. Representations at the end of any audit, we get a management representation letter from management that essentially says that to the best of their knowledge and belief, everything they provided us is complete and accurate and reflected accurately in the financial statements and footnotes. And that's what we will get signed by management before releasing the final report. And then our original engagement letter speaks to professional standards, independence issues, and that type of thing as well. So with that, we've got our contact information here. We certainly appreciate your time this evening. We know that's a lot to digest, but at the same time, it is pretty old information, and I imagine you're familiar with all the issues we've talked about. But please feel free to reach out at any time, either Claire or I, by phone or email if you got any questions. But we'd be happy to answer any questions that you have this evening as well.
Chris and Claire, we appreciate the presentation. Okay, item 6, discussion and possible action to submit the financial statement from REDW for the 6-month period ending on December 31st, 2017 to the city in accordance with statute. Consider motion or have discussion.
Just out of curiosity to either Chris or Claire, was that the most involved that you had to step into with your years of experience, or how would you rate? I can't say this word I have in my brain to say, but how did you find this mess? Yeah, let's call it a mess. Yeah. Are we the worst that we've ever been? Can we get some, I know y'all are CPAs and I'm not, but overall, all the things that you had to uncover with the awesome help of our current management system, etc. Is this the worst you've seen? Is there? Yes, go ahead.
I wouldn't say it's the worst. I mean, it may be the longest audit from start to finish we've ever done. So but we certainly have seen worse and messier. But anytime you have a number of different, complex legal matters going on, and thank you to Corey for all his help and assistance to really, filling us in on the details of all that stuff. Is tremendously helpful. But unraveling that and figuring out what the financial statement implications are of all these legal matters and all these contracts that are possibly in the medical center's name or maybe not, and knowing what you owe and what you don't owe, that was tremendously complex and took some time to sort through. But yeah, certainly, like I say, it's the worst. We have experienced some pretty messy audits in our days.
Yeah, I think especially any sort of first year where someone is either taking over or it's a formation of a new company or a new hospital, we definitely see lots of issues and things, considerations that just were not even contemplated at the onset. So.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Cheryl, any questions from your end?
No, the only thing I'll question is when you talked about the accrual of that PTO, how does that affect our employees?
It really, I mean, it doesn't ultimately affect them in any way. It's more of trying to best represent your financial statements and being truest to the form of what your obligations are at that specific point in time. So we just identified that accrual was not there, and thus the expenditures related to that 6-month ended period were understated by that amount, because ultimately, the medical center would be liable for the payout of those PTO balances, but it didn't have any impact to the actual employees that were present, from my understanding.
Okay, no more discussion. Consider a motion.
I'd like to make the motion to accept.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Call for the vote, please.
Heisel,
Yes, please.
Zachary,
Yes.
Lively,
Yes.
All right. Again, Chris and Claire, thank you so much for your hard work on getting this draft to us. We appreciate that.
Okay. Thank you all very much. Have a nice
evening. Zach.
Yes, sir.
You're going to have to sign some things as well. So just make sure you get with Billy to sign everything you need to sign as it relates to this. Just basically approving it. And I think Cassie spoke to that at the beginning of the presentations. I just want to make sure you get with Billy to sign everything you needed to sign.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. Have a good rest of your evening.
Bye.
Thanks, you too.
Bye-bye.
Item 7, discussion and possible action to approve contract between the Mangum Regional Medical Center and Cardinal Health 110 LLC and Cardinal Health 112 LLC. Any discussion or questions?
Somebody get me what page are we at?
101.
I'm sorry.
101.
Thank you.
Can we get just a brief explanation on this?
Sure. We've had a long-going relationship with Cardinal Health, and we've had a contract in place now for some time, but it's been an ambulatory contract. And kind of to put that in a nutshell, from an ambulatory perspective, this type of contract was perfect for, a clinic or a well-fast type center that had kind of an even flow in and out type services, not a hospital per se. So this is an enhancement and upgrade to our contracts. We can have hospital type services. It'll increase the services that we can get and increase our inventory and our resources, and there'll be some cost savings involved as well. So just another enhancement that we have discovered that can help here at Mangum, and we can pass it on to our community.
You had me at cost savings. Thank you much.
Thanks, Daniel.
Thank y'all.
Any other discussions or questions for Daniel? Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion to approve the enhanced contract.
Okay, thank you.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Call for the vote, please.
Zachary,
Yes.
Lively,
Yes.
High School,
Yes.
Item 8, discussion and possible action to approve contract between Mangum Regional Medical Center and Abbott Rapid DX North America LLC.
Little explanation, please.
Is this Daniel again?
Yes, sir. Okay, so what we're looking at now is a rapid swab. Currently our swabbing process is to receive those specimens, send them off to a lab, have them analyze them, and then we get those results back. Sometimes, it's taken even 2 weeks on some of them. This will give us results in about 15 minutes. All this is an agreement for is to use their product. We already have the Alere system, which is how we do our rapid swab, our rapid strep and rapid flu. Now we'll be able to do a rapid COVID, have an answer in about 15 minutes. You'll see it's pretty common throughout. This service is available. I know at Elk City, it's available at Altus, and now we're going to be glad to have it at Mangum if it gets approved.
I agree. I think that's just a great thing.
Yes, I agree. And if there's no other discussion, I'll be more than glad and be the one to make the motion.
I did have some questions on this one, particularly the terms of it. There's the copy that I got in my packet showing the price of this thing was supposed to be on the signature page, but my signature page had no net price filled out.
Corey, can you tell me what page of that contract? I have 1 through 8. Which page specifically are you
It would
talking
be
about?
page 1. At the top, it says COVID-19 Master Agreement signature page. And the contract says that's the price of the contract, but where it says what we're buying, none of the values are entered on the copy that I had.
Or mine.
Nor mine.
Does that mean they're free, Daniel?
Woohoo!
I was on mute. I'm so sorry. Okay. So, to my understanding, Tanya explained this, that there was not a price on that. So she did say that we just had to sign an agreement with them. There wasn't a specific price breakdown because I asked her the same question.
So we don't have any idea what the cost is?
Well, no, she did not give me an individual. I asked her about that and she said there is no cost on it. And I didn't, I don't know why she stated that, but she said that the contract just needed to be signed with them because we already had the product.
Okay.
Do you have a cost of the product that we have?
Well, currently we're still using the swabs that we have, Daniel. We're gonna be using the same, their swab kits. Is that not correct, Daniel? That's what
That's
Tanya.
correct. We have the system already in our lab. Can y'all hear me? Did I unmute?
No, you're good.
Okay. We have the system already in our lab. This is just an addition to be able to run those swabs themselves. And to my understanding, the only cost that we will have is for those products that we will use, and the cost will be consistent with what we're doing already for the rapid strep and the rapid flus.
Corey, can we approve a contract where the spots are empty, where it does read monthly test volume, purchase commitment monthly? What I'm hearing Marie and Daniel saying is that there is no individual pricing other than what we're already going to be charged. So can we approve this? We're just saying 0 in it, or don't we have to have it officially marked by them to say not applicable or not like this? What do you suggest? Do we need to table that?
I just didn't want to know if that was an error because I sure would hate to approve it. I mean, we can go ahead and tentatively approve it, but again, we really need to know how much we're going to spend altogether, because that those prices that's supposed to be on that was referenced later on in the contract as well, where it says prices set out on the signature page. I'm trying to find where that's at. And that was the only concern that I had, because there was no price set out on the signature page. And also, I didn't realize this was, I mean, I thought this was a lease purchase agreement. I thought we was leasing a piece of equipment. Is how it was reading to me. So find out that it's testing, I'm kind of surprised if it's just test kits.
We already have the equipment in the lab. This is just to be able to analyze those swabs themselves.
Yeah, we get that, but that page that Corey's referencing to is not specific to that. It does read more like a standard equipment rental.
See, it's paragraph A at the top of page 2. I mean, it says that subject to section C of the product availability date, Abbott shall make available to customer, and if applicable to the customers listed on the attached membership exhibit, the ID Now COVID-19 EUA test products listed on the signature page at the price set forth therein. So are they giving this to us for free? And if so, that's fine, but I just want to make sure that that wasn't an oversight, because I'd hate to approve this contract and then the board's going to have to approve a $10,000 invoice next month and saying it's on that contract. So that's my only issue. And then of course you go to paragraph E, and then paragraph terms and conditions on page 3. I mean, looks like it talks about equipment as far as the ability to purchase the equipment. And but of course, paragraph 4 on page 3 says it's not mandatory to purchase it. So I mean, are we leasing this piece of equipment, or are we borrowing it? Is it costing us money to put it in there? Those are the questions that I had when I read that.
Corey, in order to save time, since we are in a pandemic and we do need that rapid testing, is there any way that we can tentatively give the okay to deal with them until we get the proper document?
Yeah, I mean,
we are in a pandemic. Is there something we can do in between?
No, yeah, I agree with you, Ilka. I think we can go ahead and prove it, but I just wanted to draw that to the attention that it's,
Yes.
that those terms, that what we're paying wasn't filled out. So, I mean, typically that would mean it's for free.
Oh, I agree with you.
so-
I fully agree with you.
And if that's not the intention, then I think that we approve it as is. And if there's going to be additional costs attached, I think we need to maybe talk about that later on.
I do know that the tests, they're similar to the same price that we pay for the flu swabs currently. I know that. I don't know why that was left blank, but other than she didn't, I asked her several times, why are we signing this if there's no price in there? And she said, that's all Abbott required for us to even be put on the list to be in line to get this testing ability in our lab.
Okay. All right.
To the best of my knowledge, this is an agreement just to use their product on any piece of equipment that we already have in our lab.
Okay. Well, I mean, you can go ahead and prove it, but I'm just saying if there's going to be additional costs, I think we need to explain that to the board at that later time if there's going to be additional costs is all.
Will this be covered under the COVID funds?
It's a COVID-related expense. I know that much.
Yeah, if it's a COVID related expense, so we can use COVID funds for it.
Okay. I'm not a big fan of signing up for something if we don't have all the details on it. I realize we are in a pandemic and I realize it would be good, but I mean, there's just something concerning about not having all the financial particulars to me.
I agree.
I would like to offer a bit of perspective.
Go ahead, Daniel.
You know, if we have an ER patient that we're waiting to get answers on, it could take 7 to 10 to 14 days to get those answers. And the amount of PPD that we would consume while we're waiting on that answer would probably far surpass. Now, I know we're dealing with a probably, and I know we want definites, but in a situation like this, I would like you guys to just at least look at this perspective. The amount of money that we spend on that PPD is going to probably far surpass the amount of money that we would spend on that testing supply. And with the PPD shortage like it is, it would just make sense to get answers on this and be able to move those patients to an area that we know is safe, and we know that they're safe, and we don't have to use all those supplies. Now, that's just a perspective, guys.
Well, I totally agree with you on that. I do think it's very important and totally well worthy, but I would never buy a new car and drive it off without knowing exactly all the financials about it. So I'm just a hair concerned that we're going to find ourselves in another predicament because it wasn't listed today. And like Corey or somebody mentioned, a $10,000 bill next month. So that's my only concern about it.
Carol, would you be comfortable with approving something, making a motion or approving a motion with no added expense?
Absolutely.
Maybe, I mean, because I mean, if they're going with Daniel believes we don't, and if he's wrong, then we come back next month and say, hey, we made a motion, we could approve this, we would do this as long as there was no added expense to the hospital.
Sure, because I mean, I think it's needed. Yes, it's just it bothers me.
I agree with you. I agree with you what you said. Any other discussion? Would anyone care to make a motion?
Corey, what kind of motion can we make to not fall on our noses next month? Can we tentatively approve based upon the information we were presented and to revisit next month, yet to have the ability at the hospital that they can use the testings?
I would just say make a motion to approve the contract as written, which reflects a zero balance. And if there's going to be that, I mean, that's what I would do. And just make sure Zach signs the signature page they didn't put the terms and conditions on, is what I would do. But you can approve it as written, because right now we're being, how it's written, it's the answer 0. And I think that's the premise we have to work off of. And if there is a charge, they're going to have to get us to sign a new contract.
So what I hear you say is, theoretically speaking, we can zero out that page where it lists the items, and that is the portion that then our chairman can sign. If there's any changes, we would revisit that next month. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yes, correct. Yes.
All right.
So
Are
if
we
you can make
all the
that
same?
motion, and at the end of that motion, you could say with no added expense to the hospital authority. I mean, if
All
you feel
right.
more comfortable with that.
Yeah.
I do know that this contract went through cohesive corporate office and the compliance officer reviewed everything. So I don't
Okay.
believe that there is any type of additional expense. What I was told when I was first brought the contract is Tanya said, we needed this contract in place to even be put on the list to receive this analyzer. Because if we didn't, then we wouldn't be in line to get the analyzer. So that was when the contract was first brought to me. It was actually brought last month, but we ended up tabling it. And then we decided that we did need it instead of doing the blood antigen. We wanted to do the immunoassay, the nasal pharyngeal swab, and use the rapid analyzer. So that's why they brought back the Abbott, this Abbott ID.
One more perspective that may help as well, guys. Again, we're agreeing to purchase and use their testing supplies, which each time we use one of those is going to generate a charge to that patient. And there should not be a cost of course, we'll have to have some inventory, but as we use those products, each item is going to be billed to that patient. So at the net of the deal, there shouldn't be a cost to the hospital. It should actually be an opportunity to increase some revenue. I know if we were to go to the MedFast Center in Altus, that test would cost about 110 or 150 bucks. And they're doing the exact same test. I've read their results, and it's an Abbott ID that's doing the same thing.
Daniel, I don't think that anybody disagrees with you that it's a good thing or a bad thing, or it's just, we're trying to protect ourselves. That's our only thing. And I hope that you understand that.
Oh, yes, sir. Absolutely. And I completely appreciate everyone's perspective. Just trying to add a little bit more meat to this thing, because I can see why we would have a concern with not having a number on there for sure.
Well, Zach, I do agree with you. When that contract was first brought to me, I said, I'm not signing anything or putting anything through that doesn't have a price on it. And I had not ever seen a contract like that before. So I can assure you that I asked the same questions. And I didn't understand why that a company would even provide us with something like that to sign. So I'm not familiar with Abbott ID, so this was my first contract with them. So I apologize that I can't offer you any more clarification on that other than what was given to me. But I do know that it went through Chi at compliance. She had a lot of questions. So that's at the corporate level at Cohesive, and then it was approved, and then it moved back through our quality and med staff, and then on to you.
Thanks, guys. Any other discussion or consider a motion?
One more point, just for Corey. Do I need to specify, Corey, in making that motion to say NA at the empty spots, or just by literally making the added with no additional expense to the authority will clear the empty spaces?
I think with no additional expenses, we'll clear the hurdles we have.
All right. All right, then are we finished with discussion?
Get after it.
All right. I'll go ahead and make point number 8, the motion to approve the contract between the Mangum Regional Medical Center and Abbott Rapid DX North America LLC, as per page 1, with no additional expenses to the authority to authorize. Thank you.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Call for the vote, please.
Blake, Lively,
Yes.
Zachary,
Yes.
high school,
Yes.
Thank
Okay,
you.
item 9, discussion and possible action to approve contract between Mangum Regional Medical Center and HS Technology Solutions, Inc.
All right, I have this agenda item. We are pleased to announce that the grocery store in Mangum, they have a self-insured insurance policy. It is called NEBA Health. And in order, they use HST as their TPA to process and administer payments for this insurance. And so we feel it is in the best interest of our community, especially the clinic and the hospital, to sign this contract with HST Technologies to provide our United Grocery Store employees access to our clinic and hospital.
Okay, any questions for Marie?
So this is no expense to the hospital?
No.
Okay. Okay, I make a motion that we approve this contract between the hospital and HST Technology Solutions, Inc.
And I will second that motion.
Call for the vote, please.
high school,
Yes.
Lively,
Yes.
Zachary,
Yes. Item 10, discussion and possible action to approve contract between the Mangum Regional Medical Center and Central States Recovery, Inc.
Again, this is my item. The corporate revenue cycle director at Cohesive and our Mangum controller and myself had a meeting to discuss our debt recovery agencies. We gathered 3 quotes and bids from these different companies. And after discussion and review, we chose the very best one in the best interest. They come with a great reputation and 45 years in the debt recovery collection business. So we are recommending this contract for this Central States Recovery.
Any
Do we
questions?
currently not have a service for this?
No. I did want to go with a local company, but they did not provide the level of customer service that I would like. And to partner with a company, you have to have excellent communication and excellent customer service. So that is why we have chosen this to recommend to you all the Central States Recovery.
So we're talking the CSR as a debt collector to the account holders, meaning patients who owe funds to the hospital. That's what this company will be.
Yes.
All right. And their contingency fee is 25%?
Yes.
And they take it out of our monthly check before we ever receive whatever they may have collected?
Yes.
Okay. Any other additional expenses if we choose to retain them for the service?
Not to my knowledge, no. I've read over, I did provide that in the board packet. You did have the 3 different the different companies, and I feel like Central States offers us the best for the percentage of collection.
Ilka, the only thing that I saw that would increase our costs is if a matter goes to litigation, their fee goes to 50% instead of 25%. But other than that, there's no other additional costs that I saw in the contract.
Right, and it's not out of our pocket really, is it? Because they take theirs before we get our portion.
Correct, yeah.
Correct?
Yes.
All right.
Okay, so we do not have the capabilities of taking care of this through Cohesive or here locally at all? I mean, locally as in the hospital. It seems like we outsource everything, so I'm just kind of curious about it.
This is Cassie. Outsourcing bad debt collections is general practice. This isn't something that's done by Cohesive RevOps or Cohesive. So this is general practice at most facilities.
Okay, thank you.
As of what dates do you turn them over? Do you turn them over after 90, 120? As of what time frame do you anticipate to send it from in-house to the debt collector? And I might have missed it if it's in the contract.
No, that is not in the contract. That would be up to
I might have missed it, but Cassie, what would that, when do you turn them over at what point? Or are they turned over directly as soon as you accrue your patient balance? When do you anticipate to turn them over? I can't hear you.
You're muted.
Sorry. It depends on their primary payer. So it's gonna, if it goes to insurance first, insurance has got to pay, then it'll drop to the self bucket. And I believe they get 2 or 3 statements monthly before they turn it to collections. So at least 120 days.
120, okay, Doc.
The current process is 3 statements. So that would be 90 days. And then upon the 4th, that is when they would be removed and sent to collections.
Okay.
Any other questions?
And they're the ones from Kansas, right?
Yes.
Well, that's as close to Oklahoma as we can get it, right? Just kidding.
Where Dorothy lives.
Yeah. If there's no other discussion, Carol?
I'm good.
All right, I'll go ahead and make that motion to enter, bear with me, to sign up with the Central States Recovery Program to approve the contract.
We have a motion, a second. Call for the vote, please.
Zachary,
Yes.
High School,
Yes.
Lively,
Yes.
Item 11, discussion and possible action to approve TrueBridge LLC service proposal for Mangum Regional Medical Centers.
We are going to table this item for today.
Okay. We need to make a motion for tabling. Corey, I'm sorry. Can't hear you.
I would just take no action, and then whenever they're ready to put back on the agenda, they can just bring it to you.
Thank you. It's no action on item 11. Item 12, discussion on status of any changes to charge master and whether the charge master is available through the hospital's website. This Marie? Nancy?
No, I did not put this on the agenda. This was Corey Kendall.
Ilka, it was Ilka.
Okay.
Okay, y'all, do I need to, all right, I put that on the item, on the agenda simply because a lot of times we, the board members, approve all sorts of things and then we don't necessarily always get updates. Well, the thing on the internet, etc., was covered some months ago when y'all first started, and so I was just curious, how is it going? And I did check at one point to see if I can pull up fees. I wasn't able to, so I thought, we approve things and we do like follow-ups, and so I'm not sure if in the future, if when I ask a question or so, how we then, just say that maybe in the future we can get an update how that project is going as such.
I was talking, sorry. Cassie can fill in as well. The Charge Master review, I know that they have proceeded with the Charge Master review in the past. I can't fill you in on those details. I can fill you in on the details currently. We've had several meetings on the price transparency initiative by CMS that will be implemented January 2021. Currently, we do have our Charge Master that is in a downloadable format on the internet. If you go to patient information and you toggle over that and you click on price transparency, the Charge Master is available to download. And that has been that way since I first started. I saw it on the website, so I'm not sure when they, Cassie could probably give you a date when that was put on the website, but I know that I looked for that when I first started, so I know it's been on there for a while.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, so just a brief update on the, Marie mentioned the price transparency. The previous item that we just, we held off on doing is actually related to the price transparency. So come January, there's going to be two requirements that are going to have to be met. And one of them is a comprehensive machine readable file. Because right now the files that are out on the websites from all the facilities are not considered to be machine readable. And so we're working on how we can do that. Currently CPSI does not provide that type of file. The second item is the shoppable services. And so we're working on identifying the best way to utilize a price estimator for patients to utilize. And that's what that previous agreement was for, but we have some more questions that we want to ask them before we recommend signing that agreement. So, but I think you're also asking about the Charge Master review. The Charge Master review has been completed, but Marie and Laurie are still going through all the findings and making sure that they agree with them.
All right.
Do you have any other questions, Elko, Cheryl?
I do not.
Okay. No action on item 12. Item 13, discussion with regard to the status of the fiscal year 2020 budget.
This was Elka's question also.
Cassie, Marie?
Ilka, you're muted again.
Yeah, this would be Cassie.
How
Cassie,
are we on that budget?
I believe, let me look. So I'm sorry, I wasn't prepared for this because I wasn't sure what the question was.
Kathy, if it will be easier, we may table that till next time. I just always am wondering how we're doing on it, since I don't recall that we actually had a budget that we approved and then sent further back from the summer.
Yeah, just give me 1 second and I can tell you here.
Or if you need a few minutes, Cassie, we could come back to this item.
I was gonna say,
If you
we
prefer.
Well, I've got the number here. So right now we've got a loss of, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, can you give me a minute? And
Sure.
Of course, look, of course.
I think, Cassie, I think what they're actually looking for is the proposed budget for 2020. And that
Yes.
is supposed to be done in January.
Correct.
For 2020 or 2021?
2020.
According to the item, it says 2020, and I don't know if you guys I wasn't a part of that. I'm just saying.
We did a budget, but I believe there were changes to the budget because you needed a balanced budget.
Correct.
Correct.
Forgot it.
So if you're going by that balanced budget, you're definitely not meeting budget because you've got a loss, a year-to-date loss of 2.3 million.
We haven't seen the budget.
Yeah, we presented the 2020 budget. We haven't prepared the 2021 budget yet.
I must have missed that meeting because I remember when we talked about it, and because it was off, then there was discussion. So I guess I never did see the actual 2020.
I
I'm
believe
kind
they're
of with Cheryl
referencing-
on that. That's why I brought it back up onto the agenda, because originally we had been taught that in June or July the budget had to have been turned in, and then I guess we can't have where it's negative, et cetera, but do we not have to turn in the budget by a certain time in order to be compliant? So therefore, I'm following up on that regarding our budget.
Cassie, is it fair to, could you have us something by the next meeting?
Well, I don't know what happened to I guess I don't know the answer to Elka's question about the budget being filed.
Where
guess-
we're at is we don't believe we've ever received another budget after the negative budget that we received. Is that correct?
That's what I think too. Yes.
That's what I'm thinking as well.
Okay, I think where we ended up was that we provided a budget that we felt was a more realistic budget than a balanced budget. And I think we were recommending that if you wanted a balanced budget to go ahead and make the changes, but so we haven't done anything else with it.
Corey, what is it that we have to do in order to be compliable with that budget? Wasn't there a deadline, and what do we need to do?
Well, this is kind of a different situation since we're not under the Municipal Budgeting Act and our fiscal year is different from the city. So really, we do need to get a budget and just file it with our beneficiary, which would be the city. And since we're off from them, typically what we want to do is do it prior to the end of any one fiscal year. So since ours is on a yearly calendar year one, we would definitely want to try to do that sometime in December. But typically, and Dave, I'm not trying to put him on the spot or anything, can attest, Dave does the budget just like Cohesive does the budget. But at some point, what really needs to happen is the board needs to have a budget meeting to make any adjustments it wants to do, when it wants to make. And so that's what we do with all the cities I represent is, either the city clerk, or if there's not a city manager, the city manager puts together a proposed budget, submits it to the governing body, and then it's up to the governing body to make whatever adjustments needs to be made. And so Cohesive did prepare a budget and they did submit it to us, and we wanted some changes to be made. So really what needs to happen is we probably need to just schedule a budget meeting to go over that and make whatever adjustments we need to make.
By December.
Yes, for the next budget. That's one of the next item, FY 2021 budget. I mean, this is August, so we got a few months, but since it's somewhat related, I went ahead and put that as a separate item so that we can talk about the next budget year.
All right. So then no action for this point,
You don't have a budget. I don't think we can.
right?
Well,
So,
again,
all right.
they've gave us one, so if y'all want to set up a special meeting to go over that and make budgetary adjustments, we can do that for FY 20.
Item 13 is actually nothing, there is no actionable item with it. It's just.
Yeah, I mean, it's just discussion. So we can't really vote on anything, but it's just that's what really needs to happen is probably this board needs to just get together and have a budget meeting to discuss and decide what adjustments that needed to be made from the budget that was proposed to us.
We don't have it for 2020 on 14 either. It's just for 2021. So
Yeah, we're starting the budget process for 2021. We will be preparing a departmental budget. So
Okay.
just let us know what our deadlines are and we'll meet those deadlines.
And that's what we're going to talk about in the next agenda items, is just kind of setting up the budget calendar and establish those deadlines.
any other discussion on item 13? Okay, no action on 13. Item 14, discussion and possible action to establish a timeline for the budgeting committee to work on a proposal for the fiscal year 2021 budget. Anybody have any comments on who, Cord, and I don't know if, and you guys may remember, who all's on the budgeting committee?
I have no idea. I cannot remember.
Yelka
Was. And we've never met.
Do you recall who else?
I don't without going back and looking it up.
Okay.
I'm thinking you, Zach. I think it was you and I
Okay.
somehow. I'm not sure why, but I'm thinking you and I.
Was there a
'Cause we did
representative
go-
from
Remember,
Cohesive?
we did go to the hospital that one time.
Okay.
Well.
All right. So we don't even know who's on the committee, but. So what's a realistic timeline for you guys? Cassie, can you have something by the November meeting?
Yeah.
You can.
Mhm.
Yeah, typically how the deadline should work or how the timeline should work is that we have a preliminary budget put together by like 60 days out from the end of the fiscal year. And then that gives us a month to look at it, have another budget meeting. Then we have another hearing at the December. But here's the problem though, is our meetings are at the end of the year, end of the month instead of the beginning of the month. So typically what you want to do is have the budget finalized and approved by the November meeting.
So could you have it by the end of October, Cassie?
Yes, I think so.
So that way we can look at it, we can send it back into the budget committee, work on it. And we set up a budget committee for that. So the whole board doesn't have to actually meet and we won't have to worry about running into the open meetings. It's a little bit more flexible, so we can talk about that. Then it gets brought back before the full board, and then that's when it gets approved. So that's kind of the timeline. And but again, like I said, most of the time our meetings are at the beginning of the month instead of the end, so that kind of pushes us back a little. I mean, I guess we could schedule a special meeting early October just for the purposes of presentation of the budget as well. So that's another option.
You mean early November?
Yeah, early November. Yeah.
Okay.
Keep pushing you forward. Can you have it by tomorrow?
No.
That's why I put it on here now, because a lot of times the budgeting process sneaks up on people.
Mhm. We've already been talking about it, so we're on it.
Any other questions or discussions? Corey, do we need to make a motion as far as a timeline?
Only if, I mean, I don't think you have to make a firm timeline, but I just put it on here mainly so we can discuss it. So if we wanted to put in like a budget schedule or budget timeline, we can.
I would make the recommendation that you actually create something and abide by it. Because if you don't, it's going to fall through the cracks.
Okay. Any other discussion? Consider a motion for a timeline for the fiscal year 2021 budget.
Would it have to be a motion, the expectation that we just discussed to have Cassie present something for the end of October? do I have to put that in a motion?
What I would probably advise at this time is this is just August, so it's early discussions. So we can come and I would say let's just revisit it in September. And
Okay.
so we have something that we can approve. So
Okay. So let's table it.
I'll take no action.
Okay. No action on item 14. Item 15, discussion of possible action with regard to approval of medical staff privileges, credentials between below listed providers in Mangum Regional Medical Center with possible executive session in accordance with 25 OS 307B1. This executive session will occur live in Zoom video conference breakout room and will not be viewable to the public. Credentialing for OSU telehealth. The 5 listed below: Ricardo De Leon, MD; Wasim Ghanem, MD; Anna Marie Hubert, MD; Nitin Sahini, MD; Teresa Sheehan, MD. Of course, all courtesy privileges. And I don't guess we really have to go into Zoom unless there is discussion over any or all of these 5 listed. Consider a motion either way.
I'll make a motion that we credential the OSU telehealth MDs.
Okay, we have a motion.
I won't even attempt to do all the names.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
He's off again.
Okay, you're muted.
I second it.
Thank you. Call for the vote, please.
Zachary,
Yes.
high school,
Yes.
Lively,
Yes.
Thank you. 16, not needed. 17, discussion of possible action with regard to litigation update and results of the mediation between the Mangum City Hospital Authority and various parties, entities currently pursuing claims against the authority, including First National Bank of Bonita, Surgery Center of Altus, MedSurg Consulting, LLC, Alliance Health Southwest Oklahoma, and other related parties to such entities with possible executive session in accordance 25 OS 307B4. This executive session will occur live in a Zoom video conference breakout room and will not be viewable to the public. A motion?
I'll make the motion that we go into executive session.
Second that motion.
Okay, call for the vote, please.
Zachary,
Yes.
high school,
Yes.
Lively,
Yes.
Corey, who all do we need in here?
We need all the board members. We actually need Billy and we need Barry Smith.
Okay.
And
Did you get that, Dave?
There you go.
Thank you.
oh, and you needed me too.
Did you get it?
Cheryl, are you back with us? I can't see you on my screen. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, everybody's here.
Woohoo!
Item 18, no, we're gonna take no action with regard to executive session. Item 19, discussion of possible action with regard to entering into interim agreement with Catch 21 Inc. for processing of certain government payments that are currently being deposited in ASO's account at FNB Bonita with possible executive session in accordance with 25 OS 307B4. This executive session will occur live in a Zoom video conference breakout room and will not be viewable to the public.
Well, go ahead and if there's no additional discussion, and make a motion to accept, to enter into an interim contract with Catch 21 Inc. for processing those certain government payments from FNB Bonita.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and second. Any other discussion? Call for the vote, please.
Icicle,
Yes.
Lively,
Yes.
Zachary.
Yes. No action on 2021. Discussion of possible action with regard to presentation and style of information as currently presented and whether any changes need to be made to make it more user-friendly.
All right, y'all, that would be me. After having read 200 pages for this meeting, I just wondered if there is any way we might be able to decrease some of our reading material for our meetings. I have to say that the last X months have been exceptionally great meetings, specifically on the bullet points of running down of the CEO's report, etc., which to me just identifies that maybe I don't need to read all the subcommittees meeting minutes, etc., because the CEO already puts it all together into the format that shows anything and everything that's been going on, etc. I do appreciate overall, you know, getting conclusions of meetings, but I just wonder, are we really in need, Zach and Cheryl, to read every additional piece? Because all those subcommittees come up to the big committee and we read all those big headlines. And do we have the need of having all those little bitty specifics?
Do we? It's a great question.
Well,
So obviously your opinion is no.
Well,
We
I
do
don't
not
think
need
that
it.
I have to read all of it, because ultimately when I read the CEO's, Miss Marie's report, it is so detailed. That's kind of the handing over of that I'm aware of in business or military or what have you, that therefore I don't need to read all the subcommittees because I get all the big points. So again, I just wondered, is there a simpler way that we can be informed and yet not having to deal with, you know, 2 reams of paper? That would be my question to the other two, to trying to take this down a little bit and maybe ease it up a little on the hospital side, but also on our side of all the details. And if there's no discussion, then that's a moot point. I just thought we could maybe peter this down to a more manageable style than 200 pages.
I'm good with it. I'm good with
Okay.
it. But Cheryl,
I'm with Kelka. Marie is over that, so I'm good with her report. And I think if something's wrong in the report she received, then she's going to take care of it, and she can just report to us and call it good.
I don't know what I mean, there's too much information in our packet, but I just don't know where we draw the line and how we would do that. You know, of course, you know, as you guys, it's the obvious of, you know, if contracts would have to be in there.
Right.
But I agree, some of these reports are so long, and I'll be real honest, I don't read every one of them all the way through because they're just so long. And I don't think that some of it, I don't even understand what they're talking about.
And some are redundant because we read the same conclusion from the subcommittee to the next committee to the higher committee.
Thank you for making that point. I agree. I don't know what changes need to be made. I don't know if this is something we can all do tonight, but I think that changes need to be made. And you know, it'll make it easier on the staff at the hospital as well. And it's not just about us.
Correct.
And Billy.
And Billy.
Yes.
Absolutely.
This is something that I can work with Marie on, specifically as we are going through. We've got a new agenda format that's coming online for the city, and we've offered and proffered that up to the hospital board as well. It's going to change kind of how the agendas are put together. But this is something that I know Marie and I have already been kind of talking about some of the stuff that. With each one of these, we discuss more and more of what does and doesn't need to be in an agenda. And so I think we can work together on that and start paring down these agendas for you. I think it's just going to take some time to get that across to all of the
Department heads.
The department heads and
Yes.
It's a big beast over there.
It is.
So Marie and I are very aware of it, and we're already talking about it, and I think we can work together and make that happen.
I appreciate that because ultimately we are oversight and not to, mingle in all the little bitty things, but more on the higher level of oversight. So thank you so very much, Dave.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Dave.
Absolutely.
And I will mention that Dave came yesterday and I demoed the new Municode. It is fabulous. I'm excited for this for the city of Mangum. I cannot wait for this platform. I cannot wait to show you and demo the Municode for the agenda items and the contracts. It's wonderful. So organized. I really appreciate him taking the time to come and demo this Municode.
And I will say in defense of the board, and I think the reasoning why we have all of the information that we have had is, Marie, we haven't had a CEO that has communicated with us like you do. And, so a lot of it, it goes to Dave, and I appreciate Dave, but, a lot of the credit goes to you that you're with your open communication that I personally can't speak for everybody, have more trust, have more knowledge about what's going on, and sometimes yours is even more thorough than I need. But I appreciate what you do.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'll just add this, and Barry will back me up on this as well if he wants to. There is some things that CMS absolutely to be part of the conditions of participation that we still have to discuss, and I'll get a list of that as well, so we can make sure that as the board will still meet in our CMS requirements as well.
Okay. We don't need to take action on this, do we, Corey?
No, it was just for discussion, I think.
Okay.
Wes?
Any other discussion?
Oh.
Okay. Item 22, discussion and possible action with regard to nominating one individual to fill the board vacancy created by trustee Roger Reeves' resignation to his unexpired term.
I would like to present a name. Miss Larissa Vincent would be my appointee to fill trustee Reeves' spot. To those who have not met her, she's lived in Mangum about 3 years, holds a position for the Chamber of Commerce, and has a 10-year law enforcement, real estate management experience, et cetera, lived in Altus 9 years as a military spouse, et cetera. And I think she would make a great addition to our board and our community.
You say Larissa?
Yes, ma'am. Larissa Vincent, Vincent. Cheryl, do you have another name?
I do not.
Okay,
So is that in the form of a motion?
then I will make the motion.
Okay.
I'll second it.
To nominate Miss Larissa Vincent as to fill the board vacancy for trustee Roger Reeves.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Call for the vote, please.
Bicycle,
Yes,
Lively,
Yes.
Zachary,
Yes. Item 23, adjourn.
I'll make
Make
that
a motion
motion.
to adjourn.
We have two motions. We have a second.
I'll second.
All right. Call for the vote, please.
Zachary,
Yes.
Bicycle,
Yes,
Lively,
Yes. Yes.
yes.
Well, it didn't show, it didn't light up, like it didn't pick me up or something.
No, it did.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.